Hello and welcome to the Pathfinder Show. I'm Toni Gorman, your host. Today I have with me Laconya Reed. She is a licensed clinician, owner of Dump Your Junk Emotional Detox. Welcome to the show, Laconya.
Thank you, Toni, for having me.
You're so welcome. Before we start talking about dumping your junk, emotional detox, share a little bit about yourself and your personal story.
Wow. Okay. So, as you said, I am a licensed clinician, licensed in Maryland and DC, and in various mental health and wellness disciplines. I came to come into the field as a result of my own life experiences that really revolutionized the way that I saw mental health and emotional wellness. I realized after working in the field for almost 20 years that a lot of what I saw my clients dealing with was a lot of the same things that I was dealing with. And that was literally just a different perspective on what they experienced and how it affected them in their day-to-day life. So a negative perception produced negative behavior, actions, and we couldn't self-actualize. So I decided to first get well myself, get healthy, and then I wanted to give the gift of emotional wellness and being free from those past situations to other people. And that's what brought about, or the birth of Dump Your Junk Emotional Detox.
Okay, so I heard you say that you decided to go into this field, and then when you got in it, you realized that you needed some more healing.
Yes, well, the reverse. I got into the field as a result of getting whole, getting well. And once I was in it, I just saw how many people were really hurting. And some of the traditional formats of the counseling, the spiritual aspects, they played a part, but it didn't seem to change everything or all of the behavior. And I kept saying something else is going on. There's a hold here. And so what I did is I began to reflect back how I got free. And I realized that it was some of my thinking patterns that really held me bondage to some of the past experiences. And so I started working with people, helping them to really first become aware of what are those negative thinking patterns that's contributing to those behaviors, that's keeping them locked in this cycle of emotional toxicity. And so that's why I was dumping your junk, emotional detox, getting free of those negative emotions. And you can't do that until you first identify the thought pattern that's causing those emotions to stay alive.
Okay, so dumping your junk emotional, dumping your junk emotional detox came from a result of your working with your clients and seeing what they're in need of. So let me ask you this, do you think it takes a special kind of person to go into your arena of work?
It does. This is not just a vocation. I do believe it's a calling. It's the person who can empathize. And people don't need sympathy, they need understanding. You have to be able to place yourself in their situation, not to judge people for being at whatever state and phase they are in life. And so, and you also have to feel other people's pain. Not that you own it so that you're crippled by it, but just to appreciate it and validate, to know that what's pain for them, it is pain for them.
Genuine.
And you're not the authority to say what hurts and what doesn't hurt and how long it should hurt. So you do have to have a special compassion for people. And I've known that since I was maybe 7 years of age, when people said, you know, I reached out to people, or hurting people gravitated toward me. And my burning desire is to help people get free. So when I see people trapped or stuck in circumstances, situations, mentalities that hinder them, and I see them struggling, there's something that comes alive in me and says, I am called to help. I must help. And so I've been doing this. I just formalized it over through courses of school and the profession. I formalized it, but I realized looking back, I've been doing this as long as I can remember.
All your life.
Yes.
So what do you think is going on, and this maybe has been going on for years, but what do you think is going on in today's society? For me, what I see is a lot of people walking around with a lot of lost, hurt, and abandonment and rejection. And it seems like a lot of trauma is coming up, or trauma that they didn't deal with. What are you seeing mostly in?
I would agree with you. It does appear that that's what's happening, and I don't believe that it's brand new, Toni. I believe that it's manifesting in ways that are tangible for us now, that we can actually put a finger on it. But it's a thought process that's going on. Excuse me, people are feeling hopeless, and they're having a conversation with themselves that says their past efforts failed, or the systemic problems will never be fixed, and so they're hopeless about getting engaged, about changing things in society. And now we're seeing the manifestation of it. But I do not believe that it's something new to our human experience. And I believe that the change will come when we have a different conversations, not just with the global processes that are in place, but we must first start within. We have to first find our own value, find our own worth, and then it will align itself with actionable steps that we will take. And then we will connect with other people who are like-minded, and then we will begin to see change. So I believe what's happening is people are talking to themselves internally, either cognizant or non-aware, to say that nothing really works, nothing will really change, and it's creating a spirit of hopelessness and helplessness. And so we are just acting out in ways that are counterproductive to us. And so we have to really get back and have some deep conversations with self first.
So I think I heard you say that the first thing is to identify the self-thinking.
Yes, the conversation. So one of the things that Dump Your Junk Emotional Detox I've done is developed a 5-stage process, which is called the A+ Stages of Change Life Model. And the first phase is awareness. And I teach that every human being talks to themselves. And the first conversation of awareness is usually coming from our past experiences that we're not even cognizant that we have developed or tell ourselves every day. The second phase is acceptance, and that's when we are aware of what we were saying and we take responsibility, Toni, for changing that conversation. The third phase is action, and it's in one of those conversations that we move, and you will see the behaviors. The fourth stage is accountability. It's how we reinforce whatever that conversation. So some of us choose to think about the old conversation, and usually those are those negative and hurtful experiences. Some of us choose to think about the acceptance, and that's the new conversation, and we reinforce it with those accountability people, places, or things that we put in our lives. And the fifth stage, Toni, is assessment. That's where we evaluate and see if we're making progress or are we stagnated. So one of the things that I help people to do is first, before we talk about the behaviors, before we talk about the killings, before we talk about the racial injustice, before we look at those actions on its face, let's go back and have some conversation and say, what thought process produced those actions? And how can we change those thinking processes that we can change that behavior? And it can be sustained, not a temporary fix. But the long-term outcome is going to be determined by what we choose to now think about. And sometimes, Toni, people they don't know how to change it because they don't even realize what they're thinking in the first place.
You're going to give us examples.
So
just talk about trauma. Let's say I was in a horrible fire and I survived, and I know the person who set the fire. How would you change my thinking about that so that I'm not always a victim or just a survivor?
Well, that's a great example. So the first thing is you acknowledge and you validate the feelings. If you're feeling afraid or hypervigilant about it or insecure, you validate that. And then what we will help the person do is go back into that experience with support and then find all of the positive things out of it, which is the hard work, because some people who have been traumatized don't see any light at the end of that tunnel. They don't see anything positive. And one of the things that I point out almost immediately is that they're sitting in front of me. There's something inside of them that worked. So they had a conversation, they made the right phone call, they made the right move, and sometimes an inaction is the best action. And so helping them to focus on that and have that experience. And then and most times they feel better, and then I ask them, which one would you choose to feel? Which one, how do you want to feel? And so in that moment they feel empowered. So then I present it as you have a choice. You can relive it and feel defeated and feel violated and feel helpless, or you can choose to focus on what did work and feel empowered. Now, what would you like to do?
For instance, like I may have remembered, to drop to the floor. Yes, the fire was going on, but at least I had the instinct and the memory that I needed to get on the floor and I needed to crawl. And then maybe I remembered, okay, there is an exit here, and I was able to get out. So you're saying I need to focus on the things that I did do right.
Exactly. And I ask the question, what makes you feel better?
Okay.
You can focus on the failure, or you can focus on the success of whatever the circumstance is. It's your choice. The goal isn't to undo the circumstance or to act like it didn't exist.
Right.
It's to place the focus on the part that empowers you. Which part of that experience, because we can't undo it, is going to make you feel, put you at your best self. So in some of those, what you described, some of those survival instincts, well, let's hold it. Let's keep it.
Right.
How might you apply that in other areas of your life so that you are as successful in other areas as you were in that traumatic situation?
So, Laconya, domestic violence. Male, female, it seems like it's mostly women. For the woman who doesn't get out right away, or who waits, I don't know, years, and she finally gets out, and she just walks around feeling defeated all the time. How do you change her thinking?
Well, again, validating to say that, bravo, you survived and you're still alive. So whatever decision you made to still be amongst us on planet Earth was the right decision, period. And then when she did leave, or whatever the circumstances were, she still managed, or he or she managed to do enough right that kept her alive. And so it's really capitalizing on what did work, because she's not responsible for what the abuser does. The person who's the abuser, male or female, has made a decision about their own behavior based on their own thinking. So we capitalize on her thinking to say that, hey, this is wrong, this shouldn't have happened, and it does need to end. And enough of her survived that. So we look at her fortitude to be able to endure that. We look at her strength to be able to oftentimes put on a brave face. We looked at whatever things that she considered, sometimes their family or financial things to consider before a person who's in an intimate partner violence situation chooses to leave. So we celebrate all of the things that went right, because there's enough that went right that kept that person alive.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a good way to look at it. You are really saying some things to me that's getting me free just sitting here. Okay, so let's switch a little bit, and addiction. Do some people just have the propensity to be addicts?
Research suggests that some people are predisposed based on their biological makeup. Yes, an addiction is extremely divisive. It is a disease. It is not a moral judgment, and so recent research is really changing the discourse of talking about addiction, alcohol, food, and of course hard drugs or drugs as it is. It connects to your brain. It changes the shape of your brain and its function.
Yeah.
And so it creates, it gives you high levels of dopamine, lower levels of serotonin, all the feel good stuff. And we want that. And then our brains remember how to feel good. So it gives you a false sense of relaxation or happiness, which quite frankly, that's the human experience. That's what we want. We want relaxation. We want ease from tension, and we want to feel good. So what happens is people, what I like to term is people accidentally get addicted. I've worked in addictions field for over 10 years, and I've not met one person who said, when I grow up, I want to lose complete control over feeling good.
Or the person that says, well, I'm just doing a little bit of this just so I can relax. And then the next thing, it's this, that, and the other.
Again, they didn't mean to become dependent. One of the things about addiction is it does give a sense of freedom and control. And most persons suffering from the disease of addiction, they are grasping and looking at the control to feel good when they want, how they want, where they want, and as often as they want. But because addiction is so divisive, it literally takes the very thing that they want away, which is control. It's never about the feel good. The feel good is amazing. It's the loss of control that gets people in trouble.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about maybe one or two of the celebrities that we have lost in our community.
Yes.
Any thoughts? Share what you think went on with Michael Jackson, or maybe Whitney Houston, or maybe someone that recently, just whatever comes to mind.
Well, all of them are unfortunate and untimely losses to the music industry, just to mankind in general. But speaking about Whitney Houston and her drug addiction, I believe that it, started early on, and she did what the disease of addiction does. It has an onset, it progresses, and it has a predictable end if there isn't an appropriate intervention. And so I believe, again, the 5 stages, which suggest, the 5 stages that I've developed suggest that her accountability, which are the people, places, and things, she put around her, reinforced her thinking process, which is a little is fine. A little is fine. It's okay. This is appropriate behavior. This is okay to cope. And it killed her. So I believe she accidentally woke up deceased. It's the way that I term. She woke up, they woke up dead. They didn't mean to die that way on that day. So I think that, again, it's the thinking process. Her belief system about drugs and alcohol, I don't believe changed. I believe she said she wanted it to change, but she wasn't maybe necessarily aware of the conversation she was having that says this is actually permissible. With regard to addiction, with the Michael Jackson or any of them prescription drugs, there has to be a change in thought that's going to dictate that new behavior. It can't be just a little bit, or if I switch substances, it has to be, I can't have this. Not because of the consequence, but because your value system or your belief about that thing has completely changed. So a lot of celebrities who use hard narcotics and they get off and then they just switch to prescription drugs. It's the same conversation. I am determined to control my happiness. I'm going to extend it as long as I can, because I can, when I can, and how I can. Period. And the goal is to minimize the consequences. And so I believe with the prescription drug deaths, the overdoses that we've seen, the narcotics, the alcohol, the Percocets, the pills, the fentanyl, it's a thought process that's saying, I can have it, and this is about controlling my happiness or minimizing my pain. And
How
they
do you
never
have the
dealt
thought
with
process? I mean, because I'm thinking about the millennials. I mean, you hear day and night, left and right, all over the news.
Exposure. People don't know what they're thinking until they sometimes see it. So sometimes I put it on a board so they can hear what they're saying. And usually it's a shock process. You see them look like, I didn't know that I was really thinking that, but it's consistent with your behavior. So most of us address the behavior, and we're trying to figure out, why can't we stop the behavior? It's the thinking that that drives the behavior. So with millennium, and I don't even know that it's an age demographic barrier.
Sure.
However, it's a thought process. So the 60s would say, drugs is okay. It's about freedom. Well, that's what the millennials are saying. It's about freedom. It's about choice. So we're not teaching, or the thought isn't, this will kill you, this is bad. What we've actually learned, or the new conversation, is you survive it. You survive it. You actually get through it. People aren't, that's why I believe, people aren't getting addicted because they believe that it's addictive. They believe, they hear the success stories. So your brain tells you you can survive it. It might be rough, it might get bad, but you're going to get through it. There's no fear associated with using drugs and alcohol. For the millennials, the conversation is, we're not afraid. We will survive it.
So what do you use the word survivor, or do you use any other terms other than just calling someone a survivor? Because I don't like it when people refer to me as a survivor. I feel like, that's says that I'm weak and I just keep running up against the same thing over and over, and all I do is survive. I want to get beyond that.
It's perspective. So the word that I use, if I'm defining, let's say, a circumstance that I've overcome, is conqueror. And I like the more than a conqueror, because I start off at the base premise of a conqueror, meaning that I have the fortitude, I have the fight, I have the skill, I have the tenacity of a warrior. That's my base. That's how I'm built. My Creator has made me that way. So I'm already predestined to win. More than a conqueror is I've exceeded even those expectations, no matter what the obstacle is. So whatever has happened or will happen, things to come, it's not, it may be adverse, but the end is already determined. So I don't have to go in or live the rest of my life concerned about negativity or bad things, because it's already decided that I am going to conquer this and I'm going to exceed the expectation of conquering it. So I'm not a survivor, I'm more than a conqueror.
I love
Indeed, indeed.
So dump your junk, emotional detox. What's the future for it?
Well, the future for Dump Your Junk Emotional Detox is just growing. In fact, we're in the process now of developing or coming on social media or coming on a platform to really put the word out to help people get free. We are in the process of finishing up the book, Dump Your Junk Emotional Detox. And we did do the radio piece for a while, just giving tidbits on how people can deal with some very basic emotions: regret, shame, low self-esteem, envy, things of that nature. So Dump Your Junk Emotional Detox is coming to a public platform very soon, absolutely very soon. The requests have been overwhelming, and so we are in the process of developing that now. So we'll be seeing you very soon.
Oh, I think that'd be fantastic if you did something like this. Wouldn't you love to have someone like Laconya to speak to your situation and have her just pop up on your phone, on YouTube or on web channel or whatever, just so that she could share with you? And if you hear her, what she's saying, it's changing your thinking, because for so long the focus was just on behavior, even our little children, behavior, and what we really needed to do was just help them to think differently.
Correct. And you can change the thinking when you first expose what you are thinking. So you don't know, like in medicine, so before the doctor can begin the prescribed part or to address the illness, they first have to diagnose it, and they do the diagnostic by asking questions and exploring what's going on. And so the same process, it's exploring what is inside of you, how did it get there, what's the origin of it, and once it's exposed, now we can figure out how we need to proceed. What thought processes need to change? What behaviors do we need to put in place? What accountability circuit do we need to put around you to support the actions that sustains the thinking? And the assessment is we look back and we've been changed. For an example, I did the exact same thing with getting through college. I'm actually a high school dropout, Toni. Never finished high school, did not believe education was for me, did not believe I was smart enough, and never made honor roll.
Wow.
And the thought process was, other people are smart, I'm not smart. And I didn't realize that I was having that conversation, and it showed up in my action. My grades were terrible. I skipped school all the time, and I had no plan. Until one day, I had a conversation and someone said, well, you're smart. And I decided, what if I believe them? What if I'm really smart? Never heard it. It was foreign to me. And I'm an adult, mind you. I was an adult, or a young adult, but nevertheless an adult. And decided if they could learn, I could learn. That became my new conversation. Before it was, I'm not smart enough and I can't do it. If they could learn, I could learn. I studied to get the GED. Someone had to tutor me. I passed the GED. And again, I'm still talking to myself. If they can learn it, I can learn it. Went on to community college. Was afraid to go to the university because I'm some of that old thinking.
Not for you.
If they could learn it, I could learn it. And before I knew it, Toni, I had surrounded myself with people who said, you're smart, why are you here? And by the time I went to the university and I was able to graduate with honors, I was able to go on to grad school, and the same thought is, if they could do it, I could do it. And so the thinking process changed, my accountability changed, and the assessment is people like, who knew? Yeah, I'm the same person. I'm the same person. The thing that changed was how I saw myself.
So you can speak to everyone. I'm sure that our clientele, you're speaking to everybody.
Absolutely.
No matter what age,
No matter what
background, race, faith.
Change your thinking, change your life.
And
Absolutely.
quickly, do you have a spiritual or a faith piece to your work? Or?
I do. I am, I like to call it old school Christian. I am saved and sanctified and Holy Ghost filled. And even that process, Toni, has changed the way that I read the scripture and the way that I experience God. If they can do it, I can do it. Absolutely. So I believe what the Bible says, and I've had those experiences. I've had medical reports changed around based on my changing of my thinking, and what I chose to think about was what God's word said.
Wonderful.
And I've seen it happen and manifested in my body. Absolutely. So if Jesus said it can be done, I believe it can be done. Absolutely.
I'm an avid Christ follower myself.
Absolutely.
So we're nearing the end of the show. I want you to take a minute or two and just share with the viewers whatever you would like. If you want to share with them where they can find you, what's coming up, or if you want to leave them with some valuable tips, whatever's on your heart, and you know where your camera is, so please share.
Well, first, thank you so much, Toni, for having me. This is a wonderful opportunity. And for all of you beautiful people who are out there who think that your past has to be your present, I am telling you it doesn't. The best is yet to come. You can find me at www.choicesintl.org, the home of Dump Your Junk Emotional Detox. I am Laconya Reed, and I am coming to your area very soon on a platform much like this. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter. Just look up Dump Your Junk Emotional Detox. My phone number is 240-389-4685. And again, if you change your thinking, you can change your life. Dump Your Junk Emotional Detox is coming to a studio very soon.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And this is Toni Gorman, the host of the Pathfinder Show. And as Laconya Reed has said, if they can do it, you can do it. Until next time, I'm Toni Gorman, your Pathfinder. Thank you for watching.